Angels third baseman, Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon makes $35 million a year and he hates baseball. How could that possibly be the case? I'll tell you, it's an easy answer. The answer is Anthony Rendon and many other guys, according to many people, have this approach where baseball and playing baseball is a job. And that comes from a ton of different contributing factors. Could have been a coach that kind of tarnished your passion and desire to play the game. Could have been yourself. Could have been the weight that gets carried and bogs you down when it comes time for contract negotiation or travel or a lot of different things that, don't get me wrong, are maybe more difficult than some other regular cushy type of office jobs. Traveling a lot, on the road for 100 days a year, physically exerting energy, I guess, right? All that stuff, sure, could definitely impact your burning passion to play baseball. But what else needs to be a factor for Anthony Rendon and a lot of these other guys is the compensation level and just a little bit of perspective, a little bit of feel, just a little bit. Because you can sit back and say, man, we travel a lot and it's a lot of pressure and all these people watching us and yelling at us, and your privacy kind of goes down a little bit, especially when you're out on the road. It's kind of tough sometimes. Yeah, that's all true, but man, we get compensated pretty fairly. I make $30 million a year. And not to mention, my job is to play a sport. And it's not rookie contract guys who are out there grinding their tails off, getting unfair treatment, not getting the look that they probably deserve to some degree. It's a guy like Anthony Rendon dropping quotes over the span of the last couple of years that he wouldn't wish his lifestyle on anybody, that playing baseball is not a top priority. Yeah, you know what? Faith and family coming first from Anthony Rendon. That makes sense. Most people would agree. That's pretty legitimate. But to come off the way he does, so pompous and arrogant and just lacking any perspective, man. Not to mention, it's a free country. Anthony Rendon, if you just hate baseball that much, stop playing. But what's not going to work, brother, is every and any time somebody asks you about baseball and how you feel about it, and you give off nothing but hate, bored, don't like it, not my favorite thing, and just this icky kind of, God. It's like he's playing a victim mentality and making $30 million a year to play baseball. I mean, to me, it's so hard to feel even 1 ounce of compassion. I mean, it's one thing to not absolutely love everything you do all the time, especially when it comes to employment. Understandable. But it's also another thing to not just have any perspective on anything ever. Anthony Rendon saying, I wouldn't wish this life upon anybody as a professional baseball player making $30 million a year, and saying, no, it's not my top priority. Faith and family coming first. Okay. You know what? That's reasonable. That makes sense. Most people would agree with that sentiment. But then going further, it's saying, I don't want to be here all the time. I don't want to be answering the media's questions. I don't want to. Okay. But you could also be scrubbing toilets, Anthony, making minimum wage, and your life is to play baseball and get paid $35 million a year, fully guaranteed. That money is coming in whether he plays another game the rest of this season or not. And then when people question his desire to be there, his work ethic, people start to ask questions of, is he actually trying to fully rehab and get back on the field to contribute and do his job? He has the audacity to give negative energy back to these people, he has the audacity to give these reporters attitude in his answers, further reassuring what everybody's asking him about, which is he hates being there. He's not giving it everything he's got. And it's pretty simple solution. If you ask me, sounds like Anthony Rendon doesn't want to be there. So how about this, Anthony? How about you walk in the front office and say, you know what? I don't want to play baseball anymore. I don't like playing baseball. It's not my favorite thing. It's not a top priority. I have been on record multiple times saying the season should be shorter. Games should be shorter. I wouldn't wish this life upon anybody. So I don't want to be here anymore. You know what? Let's just void my contract and give a bunch of other guys that would literally do anything to be in my situation, an opportunity to do so. And I'll take a step back. I don't want the money. I don't want the fame. I don't want to be here anymore. But you know why he's not doing that? Because he's getting paid. So instead of having literally any perspective or feel or anything in the situation and recognizing, wow, my life could be so much worse. And there are millions and millions and millions of people that would do anything to be in the situation I'm in right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out publicly over and over and over again and complain about the lifestyle and the situation that I have created for myself, have chose for myself. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to, make an adjustment in my own approach or attitude or separate myself from the situation that I always complain about. What I'm going to do is just keep complaining, keep having a terrible attitude, keep giving 50% effort in everything I do in terms of my employment. And it's going to continue to be a storyline. It's going to continue to impact tons of different people, not just myself, right? Another part of it he has no perspective on. How bad does this make the organization look that gave him the contract? The owner, the general manager, his teammates. Dude, if I was his teammate, I would go to the front office for the Angels and be like, all right, we got to do something about this, man. I'm making $800K a year, living pretty comfortably, but I want to make $35 million a year because I promise I had to give more effort than this dude over here. It's so disheartening. It's so off-putting. And anybody defending Anthony Rendon, a lot of former players have come to his defense and talked about how he's not alone in the way he feels about the game of baseball. Okay, that's fine. How come Anthony Rendon's the only one I've ever heard openly, repeatedly talk about how much he hates baseball and just blatantly disregard and have zero perspective on it publicly over and over and over again? Some other guys, maybe they don't love baseball. Maybe they have the same exact mindset as Anthony Rendon. But you know what they're not doing? What Anthony Rendon is doing, which is just being such a blatant and obnoxious, disregarding, lack of perspective type of player that's so off-putting for everybody. Everybody. Imagine you were an investment banker. You were a stockbroker. You were somebody really dialed into Fortune 500 companies. And you had a bunch of money to invest. And you decided, you know what? I'm going to put all of my money into Google as a company or Apple or one of the most prominent companies, organizations, publicly available, publicly traded, known about. And as you do that, you kind of become, let's just say, for argument's sake, a fan of Google because you want them to do well. You have a vesting interest in how Google performs as a company. And then 2 days into the new fiscal year, a really high-ranking employee or even an executive at Google comes out during a public interview and goes, yeah, Google and my job, it is not a top priority. I think I should do less work. I don't enjoy working for Google. I don't like the tech industry. You would just have red flags and sirens going off all over the place. Pull my money out. I don't want my money riding on this guy. He hates it. He hates doing what he does. That's not a good sign for Google. That's not a good sign for my investment. And on top of that, Google or whatever company that guy represented would come out and go, this guy does not represent our company. We've dealt with this situation swiftly. In fact, we're no longer going to be associated with Mr. So-and-so because he clearly hates what he does and it's not good for the company. It's not good for us from a public-facing perspective. And we don't want that type of person or energy consistently affecting how our company performs. So that would happen in the real world and in real life, right? That would happen with any other job ever that's ever existed anytime ever. Oh, but when it's Anthony Rendon and he's a third baseman on the Los Angeles Angels and he does all those exact same things and he's open and blatant and honest about how he doesn't really like baseball. He doesn't watch it in his free time. He thinks the game should be shorter. He thinks the season should be shorter. It's not even close to a top priority for him. He hates answering questions. He hates going through the motions of the baseball season. Nothing happens. It's fine. And he's getting $35 million a year and just will continue to do it. And now it's a distraction. Now it's a storyline. Now the organization looks terrible. The GM looks terrible. The owner looks terrible. His other teammates that stayed loyal and consistent, Mike Trout, they look terrible. And it's just such a selfish and off-putting move and situation from Anthony Rendon. And you know what? He just doesn't really seem to care that much. And he's putting on a masterclass display of how and what to do to become unlikable as quickly as possible. Guy's nailing it right on the head. Well, let me guess, if I asked him, I don't care. I don't. Okay, we get it, Anthony. We get it. We get it. You could care less about anybody or anything else but yourself. Got it. Okay. Understood, man. And maybe, you know what? Maybe Anthony Rendon is the coolest, nicest, most amazing guy of all time with the biggest heart and all these things. Maybe that's true. I don't know him personally. I'm not going to judge his character. I'm not going to say he's a bad guy. Very clearly and very apparently, he lacks perspective, and he isn't able to really look past his own comments to realize what his comments and his actions are doing and affecting with the people around him. And that's really disheartening. It's really off-putting, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look, man.